helps individuals become aware of the deep antiquity of Indian civilization so that they truly comprehend, present, or defend the grand narrative of Bharat, unlike most other Indic researchers, because he builds it through scientific acumen and logical reasoning. He's the author of When Did the Mahabharata War Happen?, The Mystery of Arundhati, the historic drama which I have read, and now most recently Bhishma Nirvana and Astronomy Poison Pill, where he freshly evaluated astronomy observations of the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. His work led to the validation of 5561 BCE as the year of the Mahabharata War and 12,209 BCE as the year of the Rama-Ravana Yuddha. This is why I didn't memorize, these numbers are important. His first book was nominated for the Makatos Award.
Imre Lakatos Award, that is given by London School of Economics. I didn't get the award. I was nominated. Usually the nomination comes from some unknown professors. I mean, you cannot start it. Like, they have to do it if they feel it.
Wow.
And they have to be established in their profession in order to even nominate. So to this day, I don't know who nominated me.
By the London School of Economics for a contribution to the philosophy of science. So he researches in astronomy, archaeology, anthropology, geology, genetics, paleontology, ancient narratives, and philosophy. Anything else? Nilesh writes on ancient Indian history through his blog at nileshoak.wordpress.com. He's been working on this chronology research for the last 25 years, and that's his area of expertise, dating the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Please welcome.
Thank you. Okay, so for me, which area? Like, where do you want me to stand?
Yeah, somewhere
If I
around.
stand
Yeah.
here, fine. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for coming on Sunday afternoon. What we will do is, I mean, somebody just keep a broad time of, time. Just tell me, like, so we'll go for 40 minutes or so. I'll just, the
Actually,
idea.
you have a whole hour today.
Okay. No, but do we have to stop at 1 hour exactly?
No.
Okay.
So you can stop at 4:30, and then we can take questions 4:30 to 5.
Okay, very good. And so I'll go for like still 40 minutes, at least I'll aim for that. We might go slightly longer. And my hope is that, I use those 40 minutes to cover some of my research with you, and in some ways to provoke you. Okay? So like hopefully that startles you in some ways. Okay, well that's not my understanding of it. I mean, or that's not what I heard, or that's not what I know. Okay? And then hopefully that creates this discussion, and then we'll have some good time. I find the question and answer is the best part, but you need to give some preamble to do this. The topic, if there's a presentation, you need a subject, and you need a presenter, and you need an audience. We have got all of that, right? You are there, I'm here, the laptop is working. So Valmiki Ramayan, why study the antiquated poem? Now everyone knows Valmiki Ramayana is known as the Adi Kavya. How many have heard that? It's also a Arsha Kavya. Same thing with the Mahabharata also, it's a Arsha Kavya. It's called Arsha Kavya. Now what does that do? The idea behind that is that it has captured a certain chapter of the history of Indian civilization. Just like Iliad Odyssey, when you look at the Greek word. It has captured a certain historical moment of our history. And what is the idea? It captures the material, social, historical, chronological, spiritual, all different aspects of it to energize us. Okay? The idea is to excite us. The idea is to give us some rudder, as a reference point. And that's why it is called a Arsha Kavya. It has everything. Mahabharata has a verse that says there is very little that is not included in Mahabharata. Okay, so if you come across something, and actually you have to read Mahabharata to believe it. Okay, you just find it amazing that as to I never thought why would Mahabharata would have this. It has it, literally it doesn't matter what subject. Okay, go to the next one. So 3 points. Now, when I talk and my wife always complains, I just go, I'm a master digresser. Okay? Now, when she says that, I also tell her, how many of you have heard the name Joseph Campbell? or Joe Campbell, okay? And one of his famous quote, he says, the great teachers are master digressors, if you have heard that. So I always make her listen to that, I said, okay, well, I may be master digressor, but I am something else too, Okay. So 3 points, if you forget everything else, I don't want you to, but if you forget 3 points, I want you to at least take away from this, that the Ramayana, okay, based on my research, and I'll briefly refer to that, but then we'll get into some other aspects. It is, what I showed is I looked at every single astronomy observation from Valmiki Ramayan. It's 24,000 verses. There are around 600 specific observations that I found. Observations like evidence, reference, descriptions. And when I try to put together as a jigsaw puzzle, it takes you to, it's not even an approximate number, it takes you to a very specific time frame. That's the 12,209 BC that Ashanaji referred to as the year of Ram Ravan Yuddha. And once that was there, from there I went, other references. For example, we know when the Yuddha happened at the end of the time period of a Vanvas, 14 years, you go back. And once you come up with that number, that by itself is not the proof that it happened. Now there are many other references, astronomy references and geological references, hydrology references, paleontology references. Can you match it for that time frame? And the answer is yes. Okay? The second bullet, which is what I just summarized it. So once I did this with astronomy, I looked at other additional branches of science beyond astronomy. And can it lead us, can it justify, can it support that conclusion of 12,209? The answer is yes. And then some insights from Valmiki Ramayana as to not just the chronology, but in that context, what else we can learn from Valmiki Ramayana. Okay? So let's get it. Why study Valmiki Ramayana, or for that matter, any ancient thing? I mean, it applies to Mahabharata too. It applies to Bhagavad Gita too. Just quickly, I will say Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, I have shown 5561 BC, which is more than 7,500 years ago. So if you can again take this, like somebody asks you, Mahabharata, how old is that? Okay. Typically, before coming to this, I will assure you, you would have said 5,000 years ago. Would you agree? 5,000 years ago, okay? Yeah. No, that's a wrong information for your knowledge, for your information. Okay, if you start taking 7,500, you are saying the right thing. And I'm not asking you to take it blindly. You said, okay, oh yeah, so you want us to change that? Why? Okay, go to my blogs, watch some of my videos, and so on, and see. Okay, now go slow. Okay, so why study Valmiki Ramayana? One of the thing is, we will say, that it has passed the test of time. Okay, old is gold. Right, you have heard that, okay? Only if we know basically how to mine it. Or the gold mine has lots of gold, but everything that is there in the gold mine is not gold, okay? Right? So, but old is gold, we know that same. Just because I was giving this talk and that was going to come, I wore a specific t-shirt, I don't know if you noticed it, it's 2001, okay? We are 2019, yeah? So I love this, old is gold, so I'm just wearing that t-shirt. It works fine, Okay, so go to the next one. Okay, and why we want to study? Because although it's that old, it is a source for many deeper and newer insights. And we'll look at some of them. Okay, now let's look at some of the ideas. For example, everyone here knows Ramayana. Everyone has heard of Ramayana. And I told you, it's more than 14,000 years old. Everyone here knows Mahabharata? Yes, that's 7,500 years old. Everyone here knows Bhagavad Gita, which is part of Mahabharata, it's that old. Beyond that, beyond India, like if you come to North America, what is the book that you can think of that which is from the past? United States, for example. I'm not talking of a Bible or something, I mean that's fine too. But what other book you can think of? The Constitution, okay, right? We know about the Constitution. How old is that? 200, 300 years old, okay? Any other book in the US context? Like in the morning I referred to, for example, Ben Franklin and his autobiography. How many of you have heard about it or read about it? Benjamin Franklin's autobiography, okay? How many of you have heard the name Seneca? Some of you, Seneca, Rome, the Roman Empire. And that was 2,000 years ago. Now there is one wonderful book, ask every one of you to read it, has a connection with the Bhagavad Gita. One of the book of Seneca is Letters from a Stoic. Like Stoic in the sense of Sthita Prajna. The Sthita Prajna of the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. It's an amazing book. Okay? Now that's a 2000-year-old book. I mean, he did not write it as a book. He wrote letters to his friends. Either they were in the prison or he was in the prison. Okay? In a very, very tough situation. And you look at his, the mental state, and it's truly amazing. Like at one place he says, somebody, he's being tortured or his friend is being tortured. He says, so what are they going to do? Put additional metal shackles around your wrist and around your legs and so on, and then what? So what he's saying is they can physically torture you, but they cannot take your mind. Okay? I mean, you can see that same attitude that is basically shown in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So we can get this. Now what the point I'm saying is, there are so many books. I mean, just talking of books are written from that time. I mean, and some of them have survived too. But we don't know many of these. But we tend to remember some. We know the Mahabharata, we know the Ramayana. Okay? We know, some of you those know, like Ben Franklin I just took, that's like from 200, 300 years ago. Some of the books that we tend to remember. Why? One of the things is they have passed the test of time. Any homeopaths in the audience here? No? Everyone has heard homeopathy, So we are not going to talk about homeopathy is a science or not or something. But what is their method? That's why you get homeopathy gets lots of criticism because you keep on diluting it, then take one milliliters of this and take more water. Bhavana, the word that is used is a bhavana, right? More stirring, and somehow it seems to do something, right? So what is happening? That more you do, if those of you know homeopathy, more of that stirring, I'm just using a very crude word, more potent it becomes. I don't know if you knew that more diluted it is, so to say, more powerful supposed to be it is. Okay? So it's like that. So what is happening is, lot of stuff, lot of details might have been lost from the Ramayana. Actually that is true. Many times it becomes very difficult for us to connect the dots. Oh, why did that happen? Why did Rama do this? Because some additional information is gone. But still whatever has survived can tell us more. And whatever has survived for a reason. Okay? Because that's how somehow somebody found it useful. It's worth preserving, and that's how it stayed. Okay, next. Okay, so the Ramayana, we are going to talk about Ramayana, but things like these Arsha Kavya, or I call it ancient Indian narratives, they becomes a great source for knowing about civilization, philosophy, Dharmashastra, science, medicine, technology. In fact, I'm just coming back from another location where I gave a talk, and I think they recorded it, so it will come. The talk was Ancient Medicinal Sciences of India, 3 case studies. And I just talked about the 3 case studies like, prevention, cure, and patient management. Okay, that's this aspect. We get to know, and one of the case studies I discussed is from Ramayana, and I'll just briefly refer to that here. Okay, go next. Because it allows you to do the comparison. What was the life like in 14,000 years ago? And in all forms, administration, as a king, husband and wife. Now we fight. Were they fighting 14,000 years ago? Right? And so, that's not a good or bad thing, but at least we feel okay. Come on, what can I do? We are fighting for 14,000 years ago. Okay, so we can psychologically manage that. It's not just unique situation in my marriage. It happens in every house, and it happened in time too. Okay, is the concern of factual versus embellishment real? Okay, so what happens is this. Now we read this, or we more than likely reading, we hear about it. Oh, but this Ramayana has this big person, big description, 17 feet taller person, or somebody lived for 60,000 years, somebody ruled for 11,000 years. What do we make out of this? Okay, some of them are embellishments. Others are sometimes there are different types of errors because these are old texts. A lot of other errors enter it. For example, translation, transliteration, transposition, interpolation, right? The commentaries. So they were writing on the birch leaves, birch wood, and so on and so forth. Somebody writes a commentary, we take notes in the books, right? So the other person takes some notes there while doing this. The next person who is copying it, he has no sense of which one is a note. He says, let me copy whatever I see. So something that is written as a note also becomes part of the text. Okay, so all these things have happened. So what we see is a mixture of something that is true, something that is false, something that we cannot decide whether true or false, and something that is a mixture of that we can objectively test, and there are something that are atarkic, metaphysical. What does that mean? They are beyond science, and therefore I'm not asking you, and you shouldn't accept blindly. You can accept it in your subjective conviction. I don't have evidence, but okay, I want to do this, Suppose if I do breathing, yoga is well established, but if I do breathing, somebody says if you do this deep breathing 5 times, it helps you. Okay, as long as we feel confident that it's not going to destroy me in some ways, try it out and see if it helps. Okay, so some things we just take on a subjective conviction, everything cannot be tested. Next. Okay, and the proof is in the taste of the pudding. So some of the things that we can test, actually we are going to look at some of those next. And fearless and humble experiments are required, and that is what I did for 25 years. And I'm not the only one, I'm just a small guy, there are many other individuals who are doing it. But what do I find, like when Archanaji introduced me, and I wrote the introduction and of course gave it to her too. But I said this, the very unique way I want to distinguish myself is I'm saying because I do it in a way of scientific acumen and logical reasoning. Unlike all other, or unlike majority of the other Indic researchers, right? And so what is it? That means in a way the other Indic researchers should take offense with this, right? If they don't agree to it. It is there for that reason. I want them to take offense if they truly feel like that. What do you mean? So you are the only one with the scientific acumen and you are the only one with the logical reasoning. And I will say, well, maybe true, maybe false. Let's come and discuss. You understand? Like how many of you have done fishing before? It's a hook. It's a bet. Please come and let's discuss, because that is our Indian tradition of a vada. Samvad, come together, discuss, hash it out, and reach the nirnay, reach the discernment. Okay. Next, what is false and not useful will follow. Like we worry much time, but the Ramayana has this thing, Mahabharata has this thing. How do you know which is right, which is false? Well, this is the answer. Actually, sometimes it says something, right? Do this and see what happens. Like if you do Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, it says if you do meditation in this and this way, if you achieve this, then you will be able to get this experience. Patanjali Yoga Sutra says that. I mean, all kinds of things. And you say, is this really true? I mean, you can read that and you think I'm an expert and you can come and ask me. I'm not an expert of Patanjali Yoga Sutra in terms of experience because I'm not practicing it. But you can practice yourself and see where it takes you. Some things that is not useful will fall off. That's okay. Next. Alright, I don't know if you can read this. Let's fill this whole thing at this page. You can go a few more minutes. Okay. What happens, when you will hear this, you read somewhere, and now if it is written in the Veda, we should trust it, we should accept it blindly. We shouldn't question it, not blindly, but we should not question it. That, I don't know who says that, many people say that. That is not the method, that is not the idea of Indian civilization. Indian civilization, if we talk about religion, is it a way of life? No, it is a religion in the sense of, we have to say it's a religion or it's a dharma, and they don't understand dharma, so say religion. But the point is, our method, and this is from Srimad Bhagavad Purana, which is dedicated to bhakti, right? And then bhakti, like whatever the Guru is saying, you do it. It's not that idea. This is being told, this is Shukla Goswami of course writing, but it is told by Krishna to Uddhava. And what he is saying is, that is Shruti Pratyaksham Aitiyam Anumanam Chatushtayam Pramaneshu Anavastha Vikalpat Saviritya. Until you make a quadrangulation of these four things, Shruti, that like the Vedas or very authoritative literature, okay, Pratyaksha, like objective testing of that, whatever the claim is made, Aitiya, meaning the contextual knowledge, and bringing it together as an inference. Until you do that, you should not trust it. As a subjective conviction, you can take it and you start applying it. But somebody cannot force this on you. Somebody cannot insist that you must accept because it is written somewhere. That is just here. That is just only this portion. It is written somewhere. Okay, go to the next one. And yeah. Okay, so this is the scientific framework that you see. For example, all the science that is being done, let's take a Western science of last 500 years. Okay? So what Michael Faraday, Maxwell, Newton, Einstein, Kepler, whatever, they are using this method, nothing different. Now the best proponent in the Western world, I would say, is Sir Karl Popper. He says triangle of explanation, prediction, testing in the context of a theory is in the context of background knowledge. If you go to the Yoga Patanjali that I just said, he says Pratyaksha, Anumana, Agamak Pramanani. As soon as we hear something Sanskrit, we say, okay, that must be something devotional. Pratyaksha, Anumana, Agamak Pramanani, that is nothing but this triangle in between. If you go to Nyaya Darshana, it's Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, Shabda, Pramanani, nothing but this. Okay? And all the other additional principles of science are also there. For example, suppose I put forward a theory and I'll briefly describe that Ramayana or something. And you say, well, but do all these observations match for your theory? Is there something that does not match? Well, there are some observations that do not match. Oh no, is that a problem for a theory? Well, it's not a problem for a theory. Nyaya Darshana says that, modern science says that. Because every theory in modern science has its limitations. It doesn't explain everything. But it does a job better than any other theory. That's why we say Einstein is a great guy. Or Newton was a great guy. They were not perfect, but they were better. Their theory was better than others. Okay, next. Go to the next one. Okay, so we are going to look at the astronomy evidence. Now, I will show you the timeline that I came up with, these 2 dates and few others. But what happens is this. How do you go about doing it? Like, how do you figure this out? Usually you start with some problem. Okay, you can actually fill this whole thing. You can start with some problem, and to solve this problem, you need a lot of background knowledge. Okay, now I just added this slide recently, and the reason I did that is because how many of you before coming here has seen my YouTube videos? 1, 2. Thank you for quite a few names. Okay, the others, now you have got your homework cut out for you. Okay, so go to YouTube, have a nice cup of coffee, freshly ground, okay. Just sit in front of computer, type my name, and you'll get hundreds of videos, from 3 minutes to 90 minutes, and have fun. So what happens when people start doing this? They get very excited. They say, this is a good work, and I want to do something. Is there a problem I can work on? Life is full of problems. There are so many things to take. But what happens is, then once they ask for a problem, and I used to do that. I'm doing this for now 10, 15 years. Especially after 2011. I say, okay, here is a thing to work on. Lunisolar calendar. Rohini Shakadabe, work on this, something like this. And then they say, in the morning I gave this analogy. How many of you have watched Simpsons? The Simpsons? Okay? And in one episode, just giving as a metaphor, Bart, wants to help his mom cook something in the kitchen. So, Mom, I want to help you. I want to make something. So she says, okay, make a cranberry sauce. So it's okay, what do I do? Great cranberries. Where are the cranberries? In the refrigerator. Okay. So where are they? So she opens and says, here's the cranberry. Now what do I do? Okay, now take another and open the thing. He says, where is the can? Where is the opener? How do I open it? So she just quickly opens it. The metaphor I just said is for that reason. So once I give them a problem, then they say, now what do I do? Okay, so which book I should read? So I give them a book. Oh, this is in Sanskrit. Okay, so okay, so do I have to read Sanskrit? No, go look for a translation. Which translation I should look for? I said, there are many translations. Read all of them. Oh my God. This slide I'm just showing you to make this point that this started as just some childhood. My mother asked me to read Bhagavad Gita, and that's where it started. I found something interesting there. It took me somewhere there, and you end up reading this. I'm just giving you a big list to show you. All of this, whatever I have placed there, has helped me in solving some of the mysteries that I have done with whatever my research. It may look very irrelevant, like why the Bhagavad Gita will help me. I'll tell you that 5561 BC that I told you 7,500 years ago, from using the references from Bhagavad Gita, you can reach 6 millennium BC. Nakshatranam aham shashi, masanam margashirshoyam, rutunam kusumatara. These all, when you put it together like jigsaw puzzle, will take you to 6 millennium BC. Shiva Sahasranam. How many of you know Shiva Sahasranam exists in Mahabharata? Very good. I read Mahabharata 20 times and I did not know there was a Shiva Sahasranam in the Mahabharata. You can, because I am looking for only astronomy references, so when the Shiva Sahasranam comes, I said, why would I have to read that? Shiva Sahasranam has got astronomy references. The Nataraj, the description of Nataraj are there in the Shiva Sahasranam of Mahabharata. Like people from Tamil Nadu, I know some, but many other, how many are from Tamil Nadu, or Tamil background? You know that the Ardra festival, right? Arudra Darshanam, you will see the root of that in Mahabharata. In fact, that very Arudra Darshanam and connected with the Nataraj Chidambaram temple will also take you to the 6th millennium BC. Okay, you'll see that. There are papers. My co-researcher Rupa Bhatti has written a couple of papers on that. Arudra Darshanam and why it connects to 6th millennium BC. Okay, and Mahabharata. Next. Okay, so quickly giving you a feedback what I did. So Valmiki Ramayana 24,000 verses, and when we think of a Vijnana Buddhi or scientific acumen, it has different steps. Just like when you cook, what do? Some things you do in a sequence, other things you do it together. Yeah, some things you fry, other things you cook. Yeah, so there are different things. You cannot, you cannot cook the things that you're supposed to fry, and vice versa. So there is a sequence. The first thing you need to do, if you are doing this, is to extract everything that is of interest to your purpose. So what was my purpose or prayojan is to see if I can determine the timing of Valmiki Ramayan using the evidence from the Valmiki Ramayan. Within that type of evidence, I decided to do on astronomy evidence. How did I decide to do on astronomy evidence? Because just out of curiosity, when I was reading, I saw many other people claiming that they have looked at astronomy evidence and they have come up with a date. I said, oh, that's exciting, let me read about them. Once I started reading, I started saying, well, but here is a problem, here is a problem. So I said, let me see if I can give it a try. That's how you come to a problem. Okay? So extract everything. So go next. Separation, that is one of the steps of Vijnana Buddhi or scientific acumen. So that's how I extracted 600 plus. Go next. Okay, and so when, as I said, I'm going to go fast through this, that I've written a book on it, the historic drama, there are many videos and blogs, 500 plus blog articles together on my board. That's the date I came across. And yeah, you can fill this. So there are two colors, in the references. One is sort of blue, another is yellow. Everyone can see that, although cannot read it. Yeah. So the blue one is like this. That gives you approximate range where the Mahabharata would have happened. So it doesn't give you exact year, but it says definitely happened before 10,000 BC, it definitely happened after 17,000 BC, and so on. It gives you a range. Right? So the blue references you see, like I have shown here 4, they give you that range. The yellow ones, like how many of you know are familiar with the vernier caliper? Like the micrometer in the lab, physics lab, typically you would have used it, right? Measuring the diameter or length and so on. So you first adjust as a crude scale, tighten it, yeah? And you measure that. So the blue ones are like that initial scale, adjusting it. And then what you do, you tighten the screw and you take the secondary reading, right? On that rounded thing, and you do some calculations and you find out 27.382, something like that. That 0.382, that precise and accurate, comes from those the yellow type of evidence. Okay, go next. Okay, so that kind of research, what allowed me to do is put together a timeline for Indian civilization. Okay, so let's go next. So 5561 BC for Mahabharata, next 12,200 for Ramayana, next. And then very recently, like when I say recently, 2016, somebody said, can you do the similar work with Rigveda, our oldest text, right? Supposedly the oldest text. And so, because I was doing astronomy, I tried to do with astronomy, and I found Rigveda does have astronomy references, but not the kind of references that will help me put them into either blue or yellow. You understand what I'm saying? They didn't, the quality of that references is not such that it helped me to decide a certain time. So I was forced to look at other type of evidence, like hydrology evidence, river Saraswati evidence, which is no longer there. Satluj evidence, Yamuna evidence, okay, genealogies of the sages and the kings that are mentioned in Rigveda, okay. And so based on that, what I could come up with is that Rigveda has 10 mandalas, and definitely the Vyasadeva, you might have noticed the Vyasa, the Veda Vyasa, who wrote Mahabharata, he recasted, re-edited Rigveda at the time of the Mahabharata, okay. You have the references of Shantanu and Devaki in the last mandala of Rigveda. That is why they are there, because Vyasa edited. There's a reference to Shantanu Devaki. Of course, there's a reference to Ram and Prithu and Venu and all those too. So that's why I put the, when you go back, the evidence tells you that definitely the portions of Rigveda, the oldest mandalas like 63742, are definitely older than 24,000 years. This is mostly based on river Saraswati. Because Rigveda has the descriptions of river Saraswati in different forms. In the 10th mandala, it talks about river Saraswati as one of the rivers, but not the biggest river. Okay, this is 10.75, Nadi Sukta, the last mandala. But if you go back to the oldest one, 63742, these are oldest is not number one. Number one is oldest, but it's not like 1, 2, 3, 4. There is different sequence. No? You go to the oldest one, it is talking about the grand Saraswati. It says Saraswati is the grandest river of all the rivers. Naditame, Ambitame, Devitame, Saraswati, Giribhya, Samudra. It starts in high mountains and flows all the way to the ocean. And we don't have Saraswati anyway. So when you look at the hydrology evidence and go backwards, you find that the grand Saraswati possibly started somewhere around 1 lakh years ago, 100,000 years ago. But it stopped being a grand Saraswati. We have a wonderful evidence, multiple evidence, that by 22,000 BC. So 24,000 years ago, it stopped being a grand Saraswati. So if it was flowing like this, 20, 22 kilometers wide, it became like a 4, 5 kilometers wide in that time frame. And then finally it just disappeared, dried up. Next. Okay. So that is based on 1,000 plus empirical observations from multiple different disciplines of science. Next. And go back for 1 second. And that I'm showing this slide, for the third time in last 4 days. But this one British consultant, he said, you know what? I mean, he likes my work. And he says, you may want to put a blip there for the timing of European Enlightenment. Okay, so I have heard European Enlightenment, but I didn't know the exact timing. I said, when did that start? He said, here. And he sent me those dates. Of course, you go to Wikipedia, you will find those. So I put it there. Okay. And my talk in the morning, who was there for the morning talk? I think you were there, yeah. So kind of I showed it, how this medical science also, just went back. But that's not the topic for this afternoon. So go next. Go back for a second. Like what is that? Okay. Yeah. Now what we are going to do is now we are going to get into some of the insights of Ramayana and how we can relate to our time. Okay. In our times, we fight husband and wife, for example. Did they also fight? Okay. What were the differences? It's also good to know what were the differences. Like politics, administration, what were the differences? These days, of course, with all the isms, right? So feminism and this and that. Okay, what were their rights? What was this Rama doing and sending Sita and something? Not everything. We'll look at some of them. So who can scold who? I say. Okay, I don't know about your household. In my household, it's her who scolds me. Okay.
That's a mix.
So what happened 40,000 years ago? Go next one. Okay. So from Ayodhya Kand, and it's difficult for me to read also. Okay. So Nashinsa Dushchakre Kulsya Sivanashini Kim Kutam Tavaramena Papa Pape Maya Viva. Okay. This one, Dashrath is saying to Kaikeyi. He's saying what kind of, okay, very good, thank you. So, O woman of cruel and sinful nature, you are bent on destroying this family. What harm has been done to you by Ram or by me? Okay. So, what difference do you see, or what similarity do you see? What difference do you see? 14,000 years ago, men could say things to their wives. Okay? Yeah, so it's, in the harsh words, they could say. Okay? Go next one.
Speaking from experience.
Okay? And bring the translation also. Okay. Now this one, O Kaikeyi, I bow to you with folded palms. I touch your feet too. Be a protector of Rama. Let no sin taint me here in this life. Can you tell me who said this? Dashrath. Now that does happen in our time. Okay? This is said by Dashrath to Kaikeyi. It's different. Sama Dama Dandave, he is pleading in every way, whatever way. Just do it. The insight that we get is what? Even for 14,000 years of civilization, I am not talking just Indian civilization, but human nature hasn't changed much. Yeah? So that is the insight that we get, that is the power of this. So chronology provides a context, and against that context we can start understanding these things. Okay, next. Now I deliberately picked some so to make it a little bit lighter in the afternoon, the nap time, so that somewhat interest. Okay. Now let's do this. King Dasharatha is invincible like Indra, unshakable like a mountain, and unperturbable like an ocean. By causing grief to him through your action, I feel you are killing your husband inch by inch. I mean, one by one. I think you are ultimately destroying your own race. Who is saying to who again? Huh? Not Bharata. Not Valmiki. Ah, okay. Do we have chocolates? Absolutely, that's the correct answer. Now, what is important about this? Sumanta, who is who? What is Sumanta's role? He is a chariot for Dasharatha. Sumanta can scold the queen. Okay, that's very important. Now, do you think that is that often possible now in the politics and what? No, not really. It's all goody, say good things, happy. No, that time you could do that. And actually you threw some answers. They were all relevant answers because Vasishtha also said something and all the Bharat also said something and so on. So let's go to the next one. Okay. In your own dynasty, King Sagara prevented his well-known eldest son, Asamanj, from enjoying the kingdom. Ram also should depart in the same manner. Now this is very easy. Who said to who, right? Kaikeyi. Kaikeyi is telling Dasharath, So he said, okay, this is the prince and you are letting him go into the forest. He said, hey, anyone with a legal background here? No? They said, there is a precedent. Okay, there is a precedent, it happened right there. What does this teach you? Of course, the same thing and blah, blah, blah. But these people who are communicating, they are knowledgeable about their ancestry. Okay, at the tip of a hat, they can pull the appropriate reference. And something else, there was this long ancestry that they are aware of it. We say, where is our history? They are aware of it. They are using in a very casual manner. Like we quote from Ramayana, we quote from Mahabharata. Krishna said to this, right? It is for after thousands of years we have that wisdom among us that was there in their times of the past wisdom. Okay, go next. Okay, no, that's fine. So first one. So watching it, maybe you just hide that. Go back one. Watching it, all the enraged citizens said to the king, "O enhancer of the prosperity of the kingdom, either you choose Asamanj or us." Now, of course, that description is already telling you who said to who. Going back to that Sagara story, the citizens, what was the reason? Asamanj, that person, Sagara, one of the son of Sagara, he used to do some, wild tricks. He will take young kids from Ayodhya and throw them into Sharayu river. Okay? So citizens went to the king to go to the Sagara. That's what he's doing. Banished from your kingdom. Now we are talking of democracy and all these things. They could do that. Even possibly we cannot do that now, or if you do it, it doesn't have any effect. But let's see, go to the next one, what the effect was. And that king, Sagara, heard the words of the citizens and with the intention of doing good to them, banished that malevolent sons. He was removed from this. And also with some compassion. For example, he was given, the axe to do this and, things to pull some basic necessities. Hey, go enjoy the life, but you are not fit here. Okay? So citizens could influence this. Okay? Next. You are devoid of good conduct, O Kaikeyi. So obviously somebody is saying to Kaikeyi, divine Sita need not go to the forest. Remaining here, she should occupy the royal throne of Rama. For every householder, his wife is his Atma. Since Sita is the Atma of Rama, she can rule this earth. First thing, who said to who? Definitely to Kaikeyi. Who said it? No. Vasishtha. Okay, Vasishtha she says now to Kaikeyi. Okay, so that's of course, in Vasishtha we can understand he is the Raja Purohit and he may be able to say it. But I have not picked this for that reason. What else it tells you? Right? In America, we are still struggling to get our lady president. Okay, they can very easily refer to, okay, so Rama has to go, I understand that. But there is, in the condition there is no Sita. Sita can sit on the throne. No, Sita chooses not to. That is a different story. But Sita can sit on the throne. Okay, so next time, somebody tells, oh, this is the, the, what do you call, the oppression. Oppressed. Everyone feels oppressed these days, no matter what. Every human being feels oppressed by other human beings, Okay. So when you feel oppression, no, I mean, there was this open thing, right? Of everything, you're not going to get everything that you want. Okay, then there will be a chaos. Next. Okay, so now quickly, just all I want to do is some highlights. Okay, so science and technology in Ramayana. So I'll take this again because I talked about the chronology. So I'll give you some ideas. Okay, so total of those 600 plus references. Go next. You can go fast this. I explained the 1 year caliper. The blue ones give you approximate. The other one is precise and accurate. Go next. Okay. So this is good one. You can fill this. So this is about the pole star. How many of you understand the pole star in the sky? Yeah, it's a star that doesn't move, so to say. All the stars will go there. Sometimes they may be visible, they may not be visible. But the pole star, and because we are in the northern hemisphere, the northern pole star is always visible at night, clear sky and whatnot. And what happens if you take a picture like this, long exposure? You will see that as if those other stars that are going around, they go like this anti-clockwise. So if you're watching there, they go like this and make a circle and they leave their tracks if you take appropriate photographs. Okay, so that's the pole star. In our time, the pole star, its name is Polaris. Okay, now there is some motion that Earth has, this where Earth's axis is pointing to, that is the pole star. It goes through a circle. I'm not talking of Earth going around the sun. I'm not talking of Earth going around itself. Okay, those are happening, but there's something more. Earth is inclined at an axis, and where it's pointing to, that particular point, Earth does like this. And that one complete circle is so slow, it takes 26,000 years. That's known as the precession of the Earth's axis, or precession of the equinoxes. That's a well-known phenomenon. That's not a phenomenon in argument. It's not my research. That is just well known. What that does though is because it changes where it is pointing to in the sky, when that happens, what we consider a pole star, or the star that doesn't move, also changes. So right now it's Polaris. Ramayana, Valmiki Ramayan describes the pole star of the Ramayan times. Okay? Brahmarashya Vishuddhasya Shuddhasya Paramarshya Archishmanta Prakashante Dhruvam Sarve Pradakshana. If you go next, let's see if we have a picture of that. Yeah, so these are the different pole stars. And by Ramayana times actually, it is referring to this. Brahmarashi Vishuddhasya. Brahmarashi is same as Abhijit, star Abhijit, same as star Vega in English astronomy. Brahmarashi Vishuddhasya Shuddhasya Paramarshya Archishmanta Prakashante Dhruvam Sarve Pradakshana. Go to the next one. Next. Yeah, you can fill this slide. So that is that verse I just said. Okay, so in our times, if you would have looked at it, the Earth would be, go back. Earth would be pointing towards Polaris. Now if you go back half of the 26,000 years, like 13,000 years backward, now it was pointing at the Brahmarashi. And the Ramayana is saying Brahmarashi is the pole star and Saptarshis are going around it. So that gives you that approximate time. It was when the Brahmarashi was the pole star. Go next. Okay, you can fill this slide. Okay. This is the reference from Nashik, a astronomy observation made from Nashik, Panchavati. Okay, so the Hemanta Rutu comes and Ram, Lakshman and Sita are sitting enjoying the cool weather and all that. And that time, Lakshman is saying this. It says, Nivrutta Akasha Shayana Pushyanita Himavana. This is the Hemanta Rutu, and sun is setting on the western horizon. Okay, western horizon near Nakshatra Pushya. There are 27 nakshatras. You may not know the names, but you have heard about it. So it is setting around Nakshatra Pushya. In our times, it sets around Nakshatra Mula or Purvashana, Uttarashana. So if you use that precession of it happens because of that precession of equinoxes. Why the nakshatra changes. So if you go backwards, you have to, you fit this. You have to go back to at least 11,500 BCE, and this situation was true until 17,500 BCE. Why? Because Hemanta Rutu is of 2 months. Right? Each Rutu is of 2 months of the 6 Rutu. So this is the time. So remember, the Brahmarashi gave me this time. Then this particular reference gives me his time, and I'm looking at the overlapping areas. Which area is that? Okay, go next. Next, you can fill this line. Okay, what is that? Let's see. Okay, Chaitram Sri Malayam Masa Punya Pushpita Kanana. Everyone knows the Rama's birth time for the Tithi and Nakshatra. Tithi and month, right? Chaitra, everyone knows that. His name may be different. Ram Navami, Chaitra, Shukla, Navami. Right? Where does that Chaitra month falls in our times? Around March, April time frame, correct? And what Rutu it is today? Vasanta. It is a second part of Vasanta Rutu. Chaitra is a Vasanta Rutu second part. Okay? Now, what it is saying is, now definitely everyone is with me on agreement that Ramayana did not happen in our time or last 2000 years. So, for that, for Chaitra to be the month of Vasanta, many people assume that it was the month of Vasanta when Ram was born. Then, if that was true, then Ram must have happened in last 2000 years, or Ram must be here somewhere. Okay, that we know that is not the case, because what the description is saying, and there are many 8 other references. I just showed one. Chaitram Sri Manayam Masa Punya Pushpita Kanana. He's saying it's such a pleasant month. Everywhere it's green, trees are green, and the whole forests are flowering. Punya Pushpita Kanana. Yavarajaya Ramasya. And then this time let's put the Rama, install the Rama as a Yuvaraj. That is been said. So it's not our time, so we have to go backwards. The first earliest time we can go backwards, like the latest time, not earliest, the latest time we can go backwards is we have to go for the time of Sharad Rutu. Because in winter there would not be like the flowers and the whole forest flowering. So the earliest time we get there, go fill this, is there, yeah. So from 10,500 to 15,000 BC. You see the timings? 11,500 to 17,000, 10,000 to 14,000, like this. So there are many references. Go next. And you can fill this. And when Angada and Hanuman and all those parties, they are going looking for Sita, they start at the end of Sharad Rutu, because they are, Ram, Lakshmana are waiting for 4 months of the rainy season. Then they start, then the other Vadara comes. Vadara are human beings, by the way, I won't go there, Watch Archanaji's play, Okay? That explains very well, So now they are going in search of Sita. Initially they get good food. Now they find problem getting a food because the winter has arrived. They are not even getting roots or fruits. And then they start seeing the signs of Vasanta Rutu. And Angad is frustrated. He said, they were given only 1 month, come back, but many months have gone back. And he says, Vayam Ashwa Yujay Masi. Everyone knows Ashwa Yujay Masi, Ashwin Mas. Vayam Ashwa Yujay Masi, Kala Sankhya Vyavastita, Prastita, Sopi Chatita, Kimata Karyamutta. Now the Vasanta Rutu has arrived. Month of Ashwin, even that is passing away. How are we going to accomplish our mission? He is frustrated. So month of Ashwin matching with the Vasanta Rutu. Right now it's what? End of Sharad Rutu or Hemanta Rutu, early part of Hemanta Rutu. Again use the precision of equinoxes. It takes you back to 11,800 to 16,500 at least. Okay, go next. Okay, now I'm jumping there, and what I'm showing is, so after that I came to this 12,209 BC as the year of Ram Ravan Yuddha, within that time frame. Based on that, what I did, so that's the war. If I go back 14 years, I know when Rama left for a Vanvas. You follow with me? Okay. And Valmiki Ramayan also has a references. There are 2 sets of references, so people do confuse. When Rama left for the Vanvas, he was around 17, 18 years old. There are some other references where it says he was 25 years old. And I have shown why that 25 is wrong, although they are in Valmiki Ramayan. So we'll go with this. So 17, 18 years old, which means what? From there you go back 17, 18 years old, you know the timing of Ram Janma. So that's how I came to this 12,240. And then for each of those events, I try to use these astronomy references to figure it out. I'm just going to show some references. Now it's very hard to see because of the setting that we have, but let's do this. So the 2 princes, Ram and Lakshman, then embraced Sumanta and Guha in the forest, similar to the sun and the moon, conjoining with Venus and Jupiter. That is this verse saying here. Okay? Divakareshcha Nishakareshcha. I can't read when if I go too close. Yathambare Shukla Brahaspatibhya. Shukra Brahaspati. Right? Just like Shukra and Brahaspati may come together and sun and moon can come together. That's how when they are meeting. Okay, the hugging you think is a Western concept? No. Okay, the other day we talked about handshake. There is a handshake in Ramayana. Now, of course, someone would say, oh, so that must be like in last written in 200 years. Right? There is a handshake, you know. Sugriva and Rama doing handshake, and then the hug. The point I want to mention is the date that I came up with, actually now it's a bit hard to see, but I don't know if you can see on the left side. There is a moon, like deliberately I made it a big moon like there. And then one there sun. Can you read it on my side at the top line there? The yellow line or green line that goes horizontal line. So sun and moon are there, you know, it's like Amavasya day. And on that side if you look, there is a Venus and Jupiter. So for that date they are actually there. Now that by itself doesn't prove that therefore my date is correct. No. That was proved somewhere else, like all the references that I showed you. But now for this date, this data actually corroborates. It supports that date. Hey, yeah, this seems to be correct. This seems to be correct. So I'm giving one example. Go next. Okay. So if you cannot see it, it's sort of circles. There is a sun, moon, and there is a Venus and Jupiter there. Okay. And that does a date. I know you cannot read it. Okay. Go next. Okay. So what does it say? Can you read better?
Yes. Vali, who possessed extraordinary strength, rushed forth as the sun would slide from the edge of the western mountain. Tumultuous and terrible duel ensued between Vali and Sugriva, resembling a clash between Mercury and Mars in the heavens.
Okay, so remember the Vali and Sugriva fight? And there the metaphor is given that it looked like when the sun, because it was in the evening, let's say, the sun is as if ready to go to the western horizon. And the fight looked like Mercury and who?
And Mars.
And Mars fighting. So the date that I came for, now you may say, well, did I come for the date because I looked at this and said, oh, that must be the case. No, actually it was the other way. Once I decided 12,209, and I'm not going to the detail how I came to that, it will take 10-hour lecture. But once I came to that, now other dates are kind of fixed. I cannot just move them, you know, I have to go back 17 years and 14 years and so on and so forth. So that particular date, it actually, and the season has to be right too. The season has to be right. When was the Vali and Sugriva fight? Anyone? What was the season when the Vali and Sugriva were fighting?
Just before the Sharad Ritu.
No, rainy season. Yes, just before the rainy season. Just before Sharad Ritu and even Varsha Ritu for that matter, right? So the 4 months of rainy season. So all has to match, and what it is showing is the sun is ready to set. That is the sun. This is the moon here, kind of ready to set. And at the top, you go further, and it will make a circle there. Yeah. So that circle, those two lines that you are seeing there, that is basically the Mercury and whoever that Mars that was there. So somebody is saying something in the sky, making a note of it, and making that metaphor out of it for that particular historical event. That is the kind of timekeeping devices they used. You follow what I'm saying? Same thing you'll find in Mahabharata too. Next. Okay. This one, now just quickly. This one was, I have a chapter written there. It says needle in a haystack. So those references that I showed you, the broad references 10,000 to 17,000, that was good. I mean, that took me time, but that was fine. Now I was left with like a 4,000, 5,000 different years, and I have to figure out one particular year that either tells me Rama Janma or some specific event, and I couldn't find any. I spent 2 years researching just that portion. Now I was stuck. And then finally, this comment came to my help. Nairuttam nairuttanam cha nakshatrana pidhyate moolam moolavata sprishtam dupyate dhumaketuna. Dhumaketu is a comment. And what that is saying is there a translation there? No, that's fine. The comment is afflicting Mula Nakshatra or Nakshatra of the Nairutta, Nakshatra of the demons or something like this. And that's a Mula Nakshatra. So go ahead and finish those circles. So that's a comment that you see. Okay? And then that's a Mula Nakshatra, just to give you a reference, and Jeshta Nakshatra before that, go there. So this is what finally gave me. Now, if I just showed you this and said, oh, based on that I said 12,209 is the year of the Ram Ravan Yuddha. You said there are so many comments, there are so many things, anything can happen. But remember, I have already narrowed down the region, and within that, I'm just looking for anything that can help me. So when I do this, I said, this is my bright spot, maybe true, maybe false. Are you with me? So I say, okay, so let's assume that this is the year of the Ram Ravan Yuddha. Do all other things fall like a jigsaw puzzle? So when I did this this I didn't know that. But so this was that 12,209. So it so happened that 12,209. Do you know how I did it? It's like, even the simulation takes a lot of time. It's so tiring. You have to just watch this when the simulation goes on. I used to make my 6-year-old daughter sit there. And I say, just Mula Nakshatra is like tagged, like a peg, it just doesn't move. And just say, okay, keep on doing. If something just moves by, you stop it and call me. If the comet goes by, something you stop me. And you just stop that thing and call me, hey, daddy, here is something. And every time like some spike goes by, she says, daddy, here is something. And like, so now you may say, oh, child labor,
I was going to ask you how much did you pay her to do that?
Well, very interesting. So the first time, these are self-published books, but there was one function that we did in Atlanta. Like my friends did in Atlanta, and so yeah, I just went with a few books, and I said, okay, somebody has to do that too. Now Amazon takes care of it, but I put her there, And so there are photos. I should have put the photo, so like $15, whatever the Amazon charges. So usually people are going to give $20. So she has like a 5 thing ready. And ready to exchange kind of thing. And she said, okay, Daddy, so if that happens, I get to keep half the profit, right? But what she was thinking, profit is a revenue. Okay, anyway, some fun. Okay, go to the next one. Alright, so this is from, the analogy of an eclipse, Mercury stood. This is the killing of Ravana. That is the day, killing of Ravana. Okay? And what it is saying is, so it was Amavasya, there is an analogy, there was no actual eclipse, but there is an analogy to as if Rahu has taken over the sun. Okay? That is so that is an analogy here that you will see somewhere here. See, Ramachandram Drishtva Astam Rahuna or something you will see. I can read that. Okay, the second line, last word, talks something about Rahu. That is the words, the last. Ravana. Okay, and then it says Prajapatyam cha nakshatram Rohini Shashina Priya Samagamya whatever it is and Shubhava. So what it is saying is that Mercury, there is Buddha, right? Somewhere Buddha there in the last line. So Mercury is afflicting Nakshatra Rohini, the Nakshatra of Prajapati, which is Nakshatra Rohini. The Nakshatras are known by their names, they are also known by the deity of that Nakshatra. Like Prajapati, is a Nakshatra of Rohini. And so, if you see the circle, so that's like sun moon, and you go next circle, that's Rohini, and do one more circle, there should be one more. Oh, it's already there, okay. So that, if you can see that second circle, that's where the Mercury is. In fact, this was useful for something else, and I want to just state that to you, which is this. When do you think Rama came back to Ayodhya after completing 14 years? When meaning, which month do you think it was? Huh? Chaitra, right? You're saying Chaitra? That's reasonable. Why? Because his birthday came and that's why he was going to be done as a return prince and that's when he had to leave. And so Chaitra to Chaitra, that would be 14 years. I also assume therefore Chaitra. That makes sense, right? The 14 years and then we have the folk stories that Bharata said, if you don't come, I'm going to immolate myself and so on and so forth. What this reference also told me that it cannot be Chaitra. This is not the only reference, but this is one of the references. Because this is already gone to Vaishak. And if I go to Chaitra, it's simply, any year, it is just simply not possible to have this reference value. And something else, you may remember, so they came to Bharadwaj ashram after killing Ravana, they came there and Ram sends Hanuman to meet Bharat. And what is the message? He says, okay, so go tell Bharat that today is a Panchami. And tomorrow on a Pushya Nakshatra, I will meet you. Listen carefully. Now, not everyone is familiar with the lunar months, right? But Pancham. But today is a Panchami, and tomorrow on the Pushya Nakshatra, I will meet you. Meaning, whatever that day was, that was a Shashti and Pushya Nakshatra. When you combine it together, two possibilities. If it's a Shukla Paksha, it's a Vaishak month. If it is another month, Kartik or something, it has to be Vadya Paksha or the second Paksha. Now Kartika is not possible for many other references that we know. It has to be Chaitra Vaishak somewhere. So actually it is a Vaishak Shukla Shashti is when Ram made Bharat. So you understand? That is what I call the jigsaw puzzle. There is that astronomy reference that tells me, there is a calendrical reference that tells me, and it brings it together for the dates. Okay, next. Okay, quickly, and I know he was there in the morning, I'm just going to go, so I can go longer because others have not done it. Okay, patient management. Quickly, yeah, go next one. Okay, Kumbhakarna. Questions of Kumbhakarna. How many of you know Kumbhakarna? Little bit, no? Okay. Immediately you will hear Kumbhakarna, and what are the two things that comes to your mind?
He sleeps a lot and he eats a lot.
He sleeps a lot and he eats a lot. Okay? He's a very ordinary, normal person, like all of us, right? Yeah? No, he sleeps a lot, very, very extraordinary, something, that we cannot accept. And what is your reaction? I mean, when I thought it's like, this is impossible, right? Somebody sleeping for 6 months, that's impossible. Somebody eating that much, if you read the description, Brogana, Mahishana, all this, he's drinking and eating and all this. And then if you remember during the war, so he gets up, he just wants to go directly to fight, and they just slow down. No, first meet Ravana, then he takes a shower, and as soon as he has written tons of stuff, he just goes, takes a shower, comes back and says, I'm hungry. Okay, that's known as hyperphagia. In modern times we call that hyperphagia, and hypersomnia, sleeping a long time. So you might think this could be exaggeration, this could be embellishment, this is something, just to make us entertain us. Okay. Now, when I was working on some medical cream, based on Ayurveda and aromatherapy with my French business partner, I was reading everything about sleep and all the sleep-related diseases. And one day I was reading one case study of a 14-year-old boy. And once I went through it, it suddenly struck me that it sounds very similar to Kumbhakarna. But there were many descriptions which were not similar to Kumbhakarna because I did not know about Kumbhakarna. So it occurred to me, if this is indeed that disease that was described in that book, all the other symptoms that are described for that 14-year-old boy, I was curious if Valmiki Ramayan describes those symptoms for Kumbhakarna. You see how the problem begins? That's how you find the problems, So somebody coming and says, Nilesh, give me a problem. Well, that is a problem. You understand what I'm saying? If you want to do something, not just you but anybody, it says, okay, give me some problem. No, you are disqualified. You have to find your own problem because that's what makes you passionate. That's why you can stick with that problem and try to solve it. Go next. Okay, you can skip these definitions. Sleeping longer, certain hours, now they call it. It's difficult to read, but I'll walk you through. Now it is known as a Klein-Levin syndrome. Two medical people nominated this. That's something we Indians have to learn, You find something, immediately give your name to that. Okay, that we don't do it. I mean, our great people, Rigveda they wrote and they didn't write their name. Yeah, and now we are just fighting over it. Paurusheya and whatnot, So if you write something, you should write a name. Yeah, so like call a framework, I just try to give a name, like so that, I don't know if I showed the framework, there's another one. I call it grains and chaff separation matrix. People say, that sounds so cool. Yeah, but give a name. Okay. So what we are saying here is these are some symptoms. The middle one is the identified symptoms for Klein-Levin syndrome. It's like 100-year-old, the Klein-Levin understanding of that disease. And then this is the assessment about Kumbhakarna based on Valmiki Ramayan descriptions. So the first two are very easy. Hypersomnia, sleeping a lot for a long time, hyperphagia. Then the third one is not very well known about Kumbhakarna. You knew this, but how many of you knew that he had a hypersexuality problem? Because of this disease, by the way. 50% of the KLS patients have this problem. And if you read Valmiki Ramayan descriptions, you see that. For example, the words that are used are kamo pahata chetana to this. Okay? Or Ravana describes him, he's busy, meaning Kumbhakarna, in a gramya sukha, rustic pleasures. Okay? Those are the words. When he was growing up, there are descriptions that, people were totally irritated with him because he used to steal the wives of sages and other people and run around. He used to eat them. Okay, so there's some abnormality with the eating disorder too. Okay, if you go to irritability, well, that's very hard to detect unless you have some specific test. But you see that when he wakes up, he's irritated. But that could be simply because somebody woke him up. Not very easy to detect. Episode duration, very interesting. It says the KLS patient now can have a duration of up to 0 to 12 months. So when I started this research 2008, the specific Kumbhakarna, so I found a paper that said a KLS patient can go up to 3 months. Like they can be sleeping for 3 months. I mean, they get up for eating and get up for evacuation and all, but then otherwise they are sleeping. So I said it's 3 months, but Kumbhakarna was doing for 6 months. Like, is that possible? So that's 2008-9. I waited and waited, that's the you call Shraddha, conviction, reverence, yeah, I will get that data point. It came in 2015. Same group of people from France, they published a paper which said there are patients now which actually have been detected and they sleep up to 12 months. Now Kumbhakarna is what? Piece of cake, 6 months only. Right? Now what is interesting is there is a variable length. It's not exactly 6 months for a certain patient. Valmiki Ramayana has those descriptions. I know you wouldn't know that. I did not know it until I read in the context of Kumbhakarna. Ravana is saying it. Ravana says Kumbhakarna, that fellow who slept just 9 days ago, just before the war, he sleeps for 6, 7, 8, 9 or 10 months. That is the description of Valmiki Ramayana. Tell me how many of you knew that? It is there, go and check it. Okay, when Ravana is waking you up, that's what he says. So now that perfectly matches. Interval between episodes, that also match with what we have information in Valmiki Ramayana. Behavior, those all good. Onset of KLS is good. I want to focus on these two and we will stop. The causes of KLS. What causes this Klein-Levin syndrome? And the modern science, modern medical science is telling us there are multiple theories, like injury to hypothalamus and blah blah blah, different things. But basically, we are clueless as to what causes it. Multiple theories, but no conclusive proof as to what causes it. If you go to Valmiki Ramayana, there are, in the same Valmiki Ramayana, there are 3 different mutually conflicting, contradictory theories for what is this Kumbhakarna's problem. The common word is a Brahmasha. Okay? But the stories are different. In one story, what happens? Like Saraswati is invoked. Saraswati is invoked and she sits there and makes things like Indrasan, Nidrasan and so on and so forth. In another place, he just gets a curse, you sleep longer. So there are 3 different versions of it, and Ravana just says he has a Brahmasha. Now, so in the other 2 stories, Ravan is there. But when Ravan says that story, Ravan is not showing any recollection of he being there. It's like as if he has that condition, the condition, Kumbhakarna's condition sometime. Another time story, Vibhishan is telling the story. But Vibhishan is not telling he was a witness. But the third version, Vibhishan is there in that story. You see what I am saying? When you see different versions, what do you typically know? That no one has a clue. That is actually the answer. And just as an example, I am going to show you, and I'll come back to this last one, KLS patient. Let me finish this. As to if somebody has a Klein-Levin syndrome, there is not much cure. So what do? At least you have to still somehow deal with it. And if you look at the modern recommendation for KLS, it is to make that person very comfortable, make a comfortable sleeping arrangement, keep the room dark and air conditioned, and so on and so forth. Keep the food ready and when the person wakes up and so on and so forth. That is exactly what Ravana did for Kumbhakarna. I will encourage you to read the descriptions. A place was made underground like a guha so that the light doesn't reach there. The air was circulated. You are going to read those descriptions. Don't ask me where was the compressor. I don't know. But the air was circulated. There were floral scents, the perfumes to keep the atmosphere pleasant. Okay. As before even they went to wake him up, first they arranged the food. And then he went for a shower and they arranged the food again. They know. When he comes out, he is going to be hungry, super hungry again. Okay. Something else, this Klein-Levin syndrome, this hypophagia is so erratic. Like, they will eat the skin, they will, skin of the, say watermelon, they will eat the rind also. They don't know when to stop. They will try to eat the brick. You can see this case study. They will eat without discrimination. The vegetarian people will start eating non-veg during their time and whatnot. What is interesting is that there is a description of Kumbhakarna going to fight in the battlefield, and you can say some exaggeration maybe, but when he is killing, there is a verse. It's there in my paper. It's published somewhere. He is killing sometime both Rakshasas and Vanaras without discrimination. and there is another reference where he is eating them without discrimination. So not my side, So that irritation or cognitive dissonance or cognitive disturbance, it is there. So that is also similar. And in terms of can we have a technology, a phenomenon, a disease for which we don't know the cause? There are many. Okay, but in science also we find something. Go next one. Again, you cannot read. If you take quantum mechanics, it's a very highly successful technology. That's how we are doing all of this. Presentations, smartphones, everywhere it's there. But in terms of the causality, like Karya Karana Bhav, we don't know exactly why quantum mechanics works or how it works. Okay? There are like what I'm showing you, and good that you can read it anyways. So you can go on the Wikipedia. This is just a page from Wikipedia. There are 14 or 17 different theories. But not any specific theory is circled saying, yeah, this is it, this is the answer. Why? Because we don't know the answer. But the technology works. You understand? The technology can work, but we still don't know the answer. So the kind of, I'm just giving you as a metaphor. So like, they don't know what is causing Klein-Levin syndrome. They don't know the name, but it's a situation. To his Ravana's brother, Ravana is managing it. Okay? So that's the patient management part I talked in the morning. And then I also talked about prevention and a cure, which we'll not talk. I think that's the last slide, but let's go. Yeah. Thank you very much. It's a time for questions and comments and answers. To give a quick number, in case of Valmiki Ramayana, say 600 references crudely. Out of that 600, everything matches, but about 22 do not match. So there are 600 astronomy references, and so those 600 minus 22, those all perfectly match for that 12,240 BC to 12,209 for the event. But the 22 do not match, they contradict. Okay. In case of Mahabharata, there are 300 astronomy observations. Out of that, take 8 out. So whatever that number is, 292 perfectly match for 5561 BC and all the events. The 8 do not match. And so now your next question will be, how do you deal with it? And doesn't that falsify the claim, right? So hey, you said, not I said, but it's supposed to match everything. Why do they not match?
I'm more interested in your explanation of what might have happened.
Yeah. Yeah. So first understand what they are. So if you take, take Valmiki Ramayan. So what happens is, so out of those 22, some of them are, for example, Rama's age, we talked about. So there are 2 sets of references in Valmiki Ramayana. In one case, it's shown as if he was a 25-year-old when he left for Vanvas. And in other case, he was a 17, 18 years old. And now I won't go through the detail. If you go to my blog site like nileshoak.wordpress and just type age of Rama, you will get this. Okay? And there are 500 plus blogs. Blog articles. So if you have a sleeping problem at night, just go there and or a book. My book also works equally effectively. Okay, you can do that. So what happens is those references, those where it refers to 25 years old. So those will obviously not match because based on that I have said that 17 is the correct answer and 25 is not. You follow? But there are those 3-4 references which refers to that 25, and I won't go into the detail because that would be a subject. So that's that. The 16 other references in the Valmiki Ramayana, it's very interesting. There are 225 plus references to seasons I found. So when some activity is happening, there is a reference to the season, like as an analogy, as a metaphor. And so out of those 225, everything except those 12 actually match. So when I said, it was a rainy season in Ramayana, my date also is a rainy season. But those 12 or whatever, that 16 that do not match, is exactly opposite. So it's supposed to show a Vasanta Rutu for my date, okay? But the Valmiki Ramayana description is of a Sharad Rutu. That's what I mean by exactly opposite. That happens 12 times. Okay? Now what is the explanation for that? So I just left it at that, and that's how the honest research should be done. I said these 22 do not match. All my 3 books have a chapter called Conflicting Observations. All 3, and 3 books have it, and that I listed. Now somebody else, my co-researcher entered, and got curious. He says, all these 500 plus are matching. What's wrong with those 12 or 16? So when she went to do the study, what she found is, she said, where are they occurring? And I'm not saying we have a final explanation, but it's very interesting. Those are happening when those references come when Hanuman is in Lanka. And what's the big deal about it? Hanuman is in Lanka, and we know from astronomy, we know from Aryabhatiya, Bhaskaracharya, everyone, that Lanka is at the equator. That's why that's also a question whether the Sri Lanka is a Lanka or not. I will not go into that today. So if it's something on the equator, what kind of season that happens at the equator? That's a challenge, right? Which season happen? And so when season happens, do you call that Vasanta or do you call that Sharad? It's only one season essentially at this. So it could be related to that. But I'll come back to the other one. So something similar in Mahabharata, let's not go there. Very similar to this. In Mahabharata, in fact, have some references which are there, but they conflict with rest of the 300 observations of the Mahabharata. Okay, quickly, what could be the cause? What could be the reason? Like I said, transmission error, translation error, transliteration error, interpolation, somebody's commentary. So suppose I am trying to do this, but I don't take notes there. But in the old times, people on the birch leaf or whatever that, palm leaf, they are taking the notes. Based on that, could it be this? And they made a note. The next guy came and copied this. Now it became a part of it. So somebody suppose says, okay, so that's a Sharad Ritu. It may not be, but it is that person's interpretation, now it got copied. So it could be something like this. Now, let me address something else, and I don't know if you have that question in the mind. Now somebody should ask, so 600 or 300, and most of them match for that particular date that you are claiming, but some do not match. And just because they do not match, are you saying that they have been tampered by someone? No, I'm not saying that. I don't know. But see, that is how the science works too. Okay? Think of cosmology progress. So we started with Ptolemy. Ptolemy thought, Western science, right? Ptolemy thought Earth is at the center and everyone is rotating around. And that model people continued to use for 1500 years until Copernicus. Copernicus said no, Sun is at the center, not Earth, and everyone is rotating around it. And can anyone tell me why people gave up Ptolemy and started accepting Copernicus? It took time, It took time. It's going to take time for people unless you help me accelerate, So people say, oh, so when is everyone accepting it? I said, no, Newton's theory, everyone accepts it, right? Even we now know it is wrong because of Einstein. But even then it took 150 years after Newton before people started accepting it. Okay? So say, what do you think? How many copies you have sold? I said, well, that's not material, but it's going to be a classic. Every person will have it on their desk 300 years from now. Okay? So it takes time, right? So what happens is, so now this Copernicus and rotating around, Kepler comes and he says, yes, Copernicus is right, but the circular orbits he's saying is not correct, they are elliptical. Galileo comes and he says celestial is equal to terrestrial. Okay, it's not limited to only planets, it applies everything. When I throw the stone and break the glass, the same laws apply, And you go on and on. Then there is the Einstein and so on and so forth. So Newton, for example, could not explain the orbital variation of Mercury. So if you take, say, 5 planets, right? 5 visible planets, the Newton score of Newton's theory is what? 4 minus 1. 4 for him, 1 against him. You follow what I'm saying? So like a tennis match, So for example, now this, what is that? The Federer is kind of, losing the thing. But suppose it's his good time and you hear a score, 6-0, 6-0, 6-0, for example. What does that mean? Okay, of course, who won? Federer, fine. But do you also know that some shots were made by the other party? Okay, but at the end of the day, Federer is the winner. Similarly, when you look at this, you are not looking for a perfect solution. You are looking for the best solution among what is available. And then you hope that somebody else comes and takes it further. Does that answer?
Just for the record, your books kept me awake. They will not stop. I don't know what will come.
Thank you.
So do your dates corroborate with other fields like archaeology and paleontology?
Yeah, so the question is, do my dates corroborate evidence of other things? Actually, they do. Okay, now she mentioned specifically archaeology. Now she did not mean just archaeology, but what happens with archaeology is this, or science in general. See, we can talk about the evidence that we have. We cannot talk about the evidence that we don't have. So I'm saying 14,000 years ago and 7,005 years ago. Suppose we are digging today and all we have figured out is, oh yeah, well we have found objects in India as old as 5,000 years. Now, does that corroborate my theory? Does that contradict my theory? Well, it doesn't corroborate in the sense of they haven't found anything that goes to 7,500 years ago. No, in reality, they have. I'm just giving an example of 5,000. In reality, they have found objects going back to 32,000 years. The Bhimbetka paintings go back to 40,000 years. Okay, in the Gujarat area, the objects they find go to 32,000 BC. And you say, oh, how do I explain that? Mahabharata happened then? No. Before Dwarka, it was a place known as a Kushasthali. You have to go back all the way to the time of a Manu. The four royal generations after Manu. Okay, that person established Kushasthali in Gujarat. So that 32,000, somebody says, oh, how do I explain it? It's very smoothly and nicely can be explained. But again, even that 32,000, just because we found something from 32,000 years ago, doesn't mean there was nothing before that. Everyone follows that? We just don't have evidence of it. So in that sense, it doesn't, definitely the archaeology evidence, even if shorter, it doesn't contradict. And there is evidence now, the Virana, Rakhi, they are already going to 5,500 BC, 7,000, Mayagad, 7,000 BC. We already have that. Okay, so that's archaeology. But oceanography, geology, in fact, these other things help me confirm some of the things that I cannot confirm with astronomy. Astronomy cannot do everything. So like flooding and destruction of Dwarka, what astronomy can we use? Right? The stars are up there. But you see a sudden rise in the sea level, seismological events all around the world that match that middle of the 6th millennium BC, including the west coast of India, west coast of Dwarka. Sorry, somebody else. Sorry, okay, I'll go here.
There is something, I mean, I'm not talking politics. We can't talk about it in India, you know what I'm talking about. Ram Janmabhoomi.
Yeah.
Is there something which you can say in US but not in India?
Is there something that we can say in?
Here in US but not in India.
Without getting
Because the
into
matter is sub judice.
Yeah.
Is there something that your research has found about Ram Janmabhoomi? Where do you stand and what does your research say?
Okay, so well, first thing, understand Ram Janmabhoomi, as far as the temple site goes, it's a different issue. Meenakshi Jain, have you heard the name? Meenakshi Jain. Her book, I forgot the name of it, like Rama, something in the Rama.
Rama and Ayodhya.
Huh?
Rama and Ayodhya.
The Battle of Ayodhya, Rama, something. Please read that book. Because you said it's subjudicial, it's a technical issue, you know. Okay, so the legality is not about justice. Legality is about legality, you know. I mean the legal maneuvers, you know. So I think we have to be very smart about this. Now, as far as like what I have opinion, I mean, you know, it's my subjective conviction, you know. That's all I can say. But that issue is about whose property it is. It doesn't matter whether Ram was exactly born there or not. It doesn't matter. I'm not saying he wasn't born. I don't know that, you know. But it doesn't matter. So that's a truly different issue. Now, can this research help? Yes, the research will help for authenticity of Rama. I mean, we don't have a doubt about that. But that will not help the Rama Janma Bhumi case, the particular plot of land, and that's a judicial matter.
the battle for Rama.
The Battle for Rama by Meenakshi Jain. I mean, she has done it and some of the mistakes that Rama side people also made. See, one of the things is we have to get beyond emotion. Okay? I mean, you may believe it or not, but you have to believe it. I mean, for my work that I do, and it will be very interesting to hear what you think of it. Because I get like 20-30 emails, you know, cursing me. And these are not from an anti-India side. It is a pro-India side. Okay, like this. For example, Arundhati Vasishtha, those of you know, you know, for Mahabharata, it was like a big revolution. And they say, you know what, Mata Arundhati will never forgive you for making her walk ahead of Vasishtha. I did not make her walk ahead of Vasishtha. Vyasa is saying it, astronomically it is happening, I just showed you, you know. And you know, again, these are not things coming from what you call, say, illiterate people. I mean, the email is in English, so that's a bare minimum qualification, you know. So I think that's some of the challenges. You know? I mean, I don't see that as a challenge. I see challenge because it wastes my time deleting that, you know. Deleting that.
So we usually say this Ramayana happened in Treta Yuga and Mahabharata and Dwapara, and usually the yugas have like lakhs of years a span.
Yeah.
So is that wrong based on your dates, or how does it correlate?
Correct. So that is a frequently asked question. Okay. So the Yuga business. I don't know what is so peculiar about the human nature, or maybe the Indian human mind. I don't know which one it is, but it must be universal. Okay, but we care about India, so I'm just saying it's the Indian mind. But some of the most most dogmatic stuff, most illogical stuff, the stuff that has no basis. Okay, it's a very biased, very selective, very arbitrary reference that has come to this conclusion. We somehow have such an attachment that we take it with a gusto. No, this is true. So the millions, 4,032,000 years of this yuga and that yuga. Do you know that in our literature there are 30 plus different definitions of a yuga? Why do you pick just that one, and just because it's like a very abnormal and exciting you stick with it? And this is not a problem for us ordinary folks. Like our, spiritual authorities also sometimes will just say it, commentaries you read on Bhagavatam, and we do that. Here is my prescription. I tell people, and this question comes everywhere. I say either you yourself start doing an original research, like I did for Mahabharata, Ramayana, etc., on the yuga, or stop talking about the yuga. Okay? Now I'm going to give you, just for this audience, some definitions of yuga. Yuga is not even just the definition of a time. I'm going to give you 3 or 4. So first thing, we have definition of a time, those many millions years. There are 30 different definitions of time of yuga. There are definitions where in 1 year you can have 4 yuga. There are definitions where in 5 years you can have 4 yuga. There is a definition in 5 years you get 1 yuga. 30 definitions. You go to my blog and type yuga. Okay, again you will have a good night's sleep. There are this definition in Sanskrit, you are going to read from it. So that is a one issue. Why did you pick just that 432,000? That is the problem. Where is your proof? Just that one definition. The second one, for example, Mahabharata. What does this Mahabharata says? Raja Palasya Karna. A certain type of yuga is brought by the king depending on how he administers his kingdom. And that is not the only statement. That Raja Palasya Karna comes many times. But something else. When Bhishmacharya was ruling, the Chitravidya and Vichitravidya were very young. The Mahabharata says that Bhishmacharya was ruling his kingdom in such a beautiful, such a just way that he brought Kruta Yuga, meaning Satya Yuga. Now, what is time of Bhishmacharya? Dwapar Yuga and a border of Dwapar and Kali, according to that definition, right? He brought Kruta Yuga. When Parshuram got rid of miscreants 21 times, Mahabharata says by his actions and by cleaning the bad elements, he brought Kruta Yuga. When Ram came back from Lanka, after killing Ravana and started ruling Ayodhya, he was ruling in such a nice way that he brought Kruta Yuga. So now that's answering his question. So Ram, based on the description, even Valmiki Ramayan says that, other Purana also said that, he was a Treta Yuga. But by his behavior, how he did it, he brought Satya Yuga. So there is a way of how your causality, Karya Karana Bhav, depending on how you do, you bring it. If you go to Aitariya Brahmana, you get the definition. Simple, instead of Sanskrit, I'll just say, if you are sleeping, you are in Kali Yuga, it says. If you sit down, you are in Dwapar. If you stand up, I am in Treta, you are in Dwapar right now. You guys are in Dwapar, he and me are in Treta. Okay? And then it says, Chairaveti, Chairaveti, Chairaveti. Keep walking, keep walking, keep walking. Then you are in Satya Yuga.
Sorry, where was this reference?
Hmm?
Where was this?
Aitariya Brahman.
It's a Sanskrit occasion.
But you will find this, okay? So there are different definitions. There are psychological states. Like in this case, there is a psychological state that can bring it. So I mean, I say this in every lecture, and again, when he's asking, I can assure you, I mean, I know him for a while. He's not asking because essentially he has that question, but somehow we Indians cannot get rid of this affection and enormous love for the absolutely ridiculous definition of a yuga. Okay, so I mean, it has really like shattered our research, like literally that bad. So I'm not saying we have this definition, it is there, you guys, there in all our literature. I'm saying, guys, do original research. Find out what it is. Why are you sticking to one definition? Or stop talking about it for 50 years. I say that in many places. We will make a lot of progress, then we can come back. If you have figured out everything else and only yuga is the remaining thing, not a big deal. Yeah, we can find, something we have to discuss, Yuga. Okay, next question. Yeah, go ahead, sorry. Yeah.
Two questions actually. Number one, for your research, what astronomical tools were you using? Like what application? I think you got your child to also
Yeah.
help you.
Yeah.
Like what tool are you using so that you can actually readjust for the movement of the earth and everything? So
Yeah.
that's question number one.
Yeah.
And question number two is, in your view, given the current state of Indian scholarship, especially in academia and other places, what trends are you seeing? Are you seeing more adoption of these these ideas? It's not necessarily modern, but you're really unveiling some things here. So are you seeing people are taking this area up, so now there is scholarship, there is sponsorship from different institutions within India, or is it still a one-off, individual-based?
Okay, no, both are good questions. The first one, what software or what techniques I use. Of course, the Vyapti Jnana that I talked about, the contextual knowledge for this. But your question is, once you decide that, how do you test it? There are many ways to test it. One is the mathematical calculations for certain things that you do. For others, you use astronomy simulation. I mean, what you do with simulation, you can do by mathematical calculation. You just spend too long time. Okay. So, which software? Well, every software has some, some crutch. But some softwares are better than others. I use Voyager from Karina Soft. Okay. Karina Soft. I mean, if you want to do it, it's not a huge investment, especially North America, not a huge investment. Like for $100, you can get the version. I mean, get the full Cadillac of this software, and just then take my books, sit there. Now you don't have to sleep anymore, right? Just look at it and say, can I match this? Can I match this 600 times? What is the logic of it? Okay. So that's one. The second question, very important question. Everyone understood second question, like what is the status of this research? What do people think of method like what I'm using? Are they accepting it? Where it is going? Are there institutions? A lot of a loaded question there. First thing I'll tell you, obviously there are people, I'm just one among many that who are doing it. Having said that, there are a lot of researchers, but just like what she read in the introduction, when it comes to like using that scientific acumen, logical reasoning, okay? So yeah, it's like a funnel. Like how many of you are in the sales, like sales background? 1, 2, thank God. Otherwise I said I could bluff, No. So it's a funnel. We talk about the cold leads, right? It's a funnel, and then it comes down to this. So if you look at how many researchers, universities, there are Department of Indic Studies, of course, West, but East, and so many like this. But if you start nailing it down for scientific, which one we can close, and about $10,000, whatever it is, then suddenly there is nothing. Just very few that I can count here. Literally like this. Okay? Now, some people are not so bad with scientific acumen in the sense of collecting the data. They're fine. Like archaeology is not that bad, Archaeology people will do. But those same archaeologists, once they look at the data, how to take that data and draw the meaningful conclusions, they make a very ridiculous conclusions. I'll give you a couple of examples. So take archaeology for example, like Professor B.B. Lal, have you heard the name? Very famous name. So what happens, he has done a lot of work in terms of archaeological digs and whatnot. So in area near in Meerut district called Hastinapur, which is, so they said, okay, that could be Hastinapur, right? That names happen on the bank of Ganga somewhere. So they found some mound. This is going back to 1950s. So they dug it, and they get different layers, and you can date those layers. So they found some pots and pans like PWD pottery and grey pottery, and you might have heard about those. And so they dated the pottery, and so for example that came out 1000 BC, for example. Now the fun starts. So all that work is correct. It's empirical, it's correct, it's a lot of hard work. But because they went to a place called Hastinapur, or it could be Hastinapur, on the bank of Ganga, they dug it, and that is dated to 1000 BC. They start shouting, B.B. Lal, but others, and great respect to him for his work, but no respect for the inference he draws. And so what does he say? Mahabharata happened in 1000 BC. Do you see the problem with that conclusion? What does all that it tells you is that somebody lived there in 1000 BC, whoever that was, and they used some pots and pans. You understand? We found it. Why suddenly say, like this? Even if, my point is, even if you find a bow and arrow, or even a chariot and a horse, that is not even the reason. Only they use bow and arrows and chariots only in Mahabharata? No, they were using it afterwards, they were using it before. So just because you find a chariot doesn't tell you that's Mahabharata. Do you see those news? Saunali or that place, and we found a 2000 BC chariot. And immediately the articles, I mean, that's another not social media, the mainstream media. Mahabharata time now to be 2000 BCE, you know. What is that? You need to connect the dots. So a lot of research of that kind happens. Who asked that question? Yeah. So some side is good, but then they struggle there. What is required? And I'll tell you the positive story in a minute. What I want when I do this research, I want other Mahabharata researchers, and you know, when I say researchers, don't say, okay, well, they are in the university. Okay, I have to really meet a good, original, intelligent researcher in university around the world yet. We all come from university, but you know, university has its restrictions, and you know, this is a history not just of Indian research. Like what was Galileo? Do you know what Kepler used to do for a living? Anyone? No? Kepler used to make 2-year-long almanacs, you know, like the calendars in advance with the predictions for weather. Predictions for weather for every day of 2 future years. And he used to sell those. That's how, he lived in poverty by the way. Okay, he used to get some patronage, but then that will go away, the king dies and that's gone, and then he has to move on and so on. But you know, while he's doing this, he's performing this research here. What did Galileo get for his revolutionary research, celestial equal to terrestrial? Free food in the prison. The life or whatever you can say of the researcher, original researcher is not easy. You know? So that research, unfortunately it won't happen there. Now that's negative side. The positive side is, like for example, this afternoon you could have done some many wonderful things, just the Saturday and Sunday that you get, but you are here. Okay, or people watching on YouTube, Raju Malhotra, you heard the name, so the people like that, some few other researchers. So I think that's happening. Many other people, I'm a good example. I'm a chemical engineer, bachelor's, master, then MBA, selling plastics, selling aircraft engines, selling power plants. They used to ask me there, what is chemical engineer doing in a power plant? And now of course they say, oh, you are a chemical engineer, what are you doing with Mahabharata? Something like this. But I think people come from this ground, and that is what is happening. I see that. The support that I see, people's enthusiasm, the young generation's enthusiasm, it is there. It's very good. Now, when I say that, you have to be very careful. You say, oh, thank God, that's good, somebody is taking care of it. No, let me tell you, that there is nobody outside this room who is taking care of it. If you want to, you have to become a part of this mission. People ask me, like the typical question, oh, when will this material go into the textbooks of India or even California and therefore here? I'm working as part of the member, to change the California textbooks. How many of you are involved in some fashion in changing the California? The problem of California textbooks? A very anti-Hindu stuff that is written in the books. Okay? You are involved in? No, you know about it, you're saying, yeah. Okay, how many of you are involved? The thing is, if you are not involved, I'm not like making you feel guilty, nothing will happen. The few people, that I get 20 suggestions a day. Nileshji, I think you should work on this. And honestly, people, Raju Malhotra talks about that same frustration. And honestly, people feel that they really helped me. You should work on this. You should. I'm giving you an example, but just to express the frustration, I have to vent off here and then I'll stop my vent here. Okay? It's like some person said, this astronomy you are doing, you should study that science of the weather and astronomy. Okay? I said, okay, give me the reference. Oh, it is done by somebody and it should be in the library. Okay, very nice. I said, which library? He said, you go to Jodhpur library. These are real story I'm saying. But you have to, we talked yesterday night, you have to control that anger, right? It's brewing anger, what nonsense, right? You say, why Jodhpur library? He said, sometimes someone told me that it might be in a Jodhpur library. It's that kind of thing. So therefore I just, people ask me for a reference, I say, no, if you haven't found your own problem, that is a problem. Okay? There are so many problems, but you have to find something passionate and you do it for your own joy. If you are thinking a reward, I mean, people, so yesterday, I forgot where it was, but somebody says, okay, so I left my job in 2013, I do consultancy a little bit, but last 1.5 years or close to 2 years, I have not done anything. I mean, I'm researching on this, I say I want to focus on this, no distraction. They say, okay, so, but the book takes care of you, you know. I said, no, books buy me vada pav. Okay, I mean, you know, so, but that's the reality of it, you know, and I'm not saying that frustration, that's my business, I decided to do it, I'll do it my way. But we need many more researchers like this. If you are depending on academia, they're not coming from there. They are just not going to come from there. I mean, look at some of the researchers, you know, the person may happen to be in academia, but many times it is not that main area. Like they have that area, but they do something on the side. And they suffer for it. Even, you know, I mean, I left 2013 and I do my consulting work. But most of the consulting work I get through my contacts, like we call Purva Punyai, the past 5 years. But there also has a challenge. So because until 2015, and 13 I left, I wrote books, but I did not go out and give speeches like this. I couldn't. I had a very visible position in General Electric. I just couldn't. They say, what are you doing? You are not working. You understand? So you have to live it. So it's a challenge. That's what you have to do. But on a positive note, the young generation is taking very well, and not just young generation, all people. Many times I ask them when they are very excited about my work, they will say, oh, Nilesh, I'm very happy with this. I say, okay, why do you think my date is correct and others' date is wrong? And they stumble, you know, they struggle to explain that. I said, no, you have to figure this out. You cannot leave it to others. Don't take a leap of faith. Like there are people who are trying to say, okay, can we make a documentary and something like this? And I say, why you select my date? There are 130 different claims for Mahabharata. Okay, I mean, whoever wants to do something with me, whether through a comics or documentary, I mean, I will help that person. But that person should be absolutely convinced why this is correct. Otherwise, there is no point in going there. So there are positive trends happening, but you know, I mean, it's not I. If you care for Indian civilization, humanity, whatnot, you have to contribute in your own way. And therefore I said, okay, just going on next time somebody says, how old is our civilization? More than 24,000 years. When did Mahabharata war happen? More 7,500 years. Ramayana 14,500 years. And you know, and then you say, oh, but if they ask me a question, what do I do? You know exactly what to do. NileshOak.wordpress.com, Amazon.com, YouTube video, you know. Make that person's life miserable. Give the link for a YouTube videos of mine. Next question. And somebody just look at a time.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
You can take a couple more.
Okay.
I'm curious, even a few months ago, what I read in the newspaper was that Rig Veda is dated between 10 BCE and 10 AD, and most of it is coming from Western historians. So, your research, what kind of commentary have you been getting from?
What kind of comments I'm getting? Commentary I'm getting. Okay, so as far as the Western Indologists are concerned, like what do you think their commentary would be? They don't understand. I mean, you know, if they start engaging, they will lose instantaneously. Okay, because all of you don't know how that has worked, like Witzel or you know Harvard and Columbia and Chicago and Berkeley, you know, the Indian departments. How do they do it? There was one video that Raju Malhotra put one time. This 30-second video Shadal Pula. So this happened in 500 BCE, and why do I say that? Because I think so. That is their evidence. He put that video of this. Okay, self-evident. Okay, so that is one. So if they get there, they are going to lose this battle. So they have every reason to pretend that Nilesh Oak doesn't exist or the likes of researchers. So that's that. Now that I don't feel sad about it. Their agenda is clear. Okay, what is frustrating is what about our Indian researchers? And I'm not just talking about my research. I mean, Raju Malhotra talks of his frustration, many others talk of their frustration. But even our Indian researchers, I mean, some of the well-known names, like from 2011, I sent 50 copies to every researcher who was interested in Mahabharata or done something in Mahabharata. I sent personally. And it wasn't the book. That's why I said I'm a negative on my revenue or profit on the books. You know, so book itself, like I could buy a copy, author's copy for $5, $7, something like this. But you know that to ship to India, like I didn't know until I went to the post office, like $16, $32. I said, when did that happen? You know? So it's a lot of things like this. And so I sent 50 copies, this is back to 2011. 2 people acknowledged it. One person wrote me back something with his agreement and some objection, which is what we want. All others, total silence. And these are all famous names that most of you will know. Okay, so that's like very frustrating. That part is very frustrating. But we also see a silver lining to it. Okay, so what I do now is the social media is our friend, and I say every time when it happens, I said, okay, so anybody says, oh, but I don't agree with it. Somebody says, I don't agree with your dates. I said, thank you very much, that's great, that's exactly what I want. Are you open and willing for a on-camera, uncut, unedited debate? We can do it as a mutual time and place, of mutual choice, and then they go away.
There's one of you and Dr. Else though, right?
Yeah. So Dr. Konrad Elst, how many of you have heard the name Dr. Konrad Elst? Now Konrad, see, that is I go to YouTube, also the other channel, Vimeo or Vimeo, go there and just type Konrad Elst or Nilesh Oak, you'll get that 1 hour debate. And it's a very civil debate. I mean, you don't have to start punching, okay? So it's a very good. Now so it was nice of Konrad to participate. I mean, Konrad is my friend, we meet many times. The thing is, Konrad does not have his own claim for Mahabharata. Okay? Nyaya Darshana says, what is Vitanda? Okay? So when you don't have your own position, you are just arguing, you are just finding holes. That doesn't work. Swapratipakša sthapana hino Vitanda. And that's very, very scientific. That tells you the science. Science is not about finding the truth, because even if we reach it, we don't know if it is the truth. Science is finding about the approximation to the truth, the best among the lot. And then find out, once you know that is the best, you find what are the problems with that best, and that takes you to the next level. Okay? So the best debate will be some other person who also has a claim for Mahabharata, who also has a claim for Ramayana, who also has a claim for Rigveda timing. Okay, now that person says 3000 BC, I say for Rigveda 6 millennium to 24,000, and that person says, are you crazy? I mean, wouldn't that be fun to watch that debate? How did you come to 24,000? So the researchers that I know, and when they say it, I said, okay, let's do a debate, and then they disappear, for a time being, until they didn't come again. So I think now that is our culture, the Vada culture, but that people don't participate.
Entry level for this kind of problem debate is so formidable at this point in time, and especially coming from the kind of background we've all grown up in, where science, math, English, very secular, air quotes, is how we were all trained in. Except for a few of us who probably had traditional homes where we were asked to read the Mahabharata in the original form, most of us grew on Ramanand Sagar version of it, right? So it's so remarkable. So the scholarship on that is such a low bar. I'm trying to understand what is it that you yourself, I mean, you've done obviously a lot of research on this. Is there a set of text that you can please, I haven't seen the WordPress but that you could recommend and say, these are the stepping stones.
Yeah.
So get this in place before you even come and talk to me.
Correct.
Like, I don't want to waste your time and come and talk to you. Like, this is what you do.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Everyone understood his question. So what are some basic texts? Yeah.
In addition to that, like, can you just list, like, let's say, top 10 open problems that you think that is what people should focus on?
Top 10 open problems, yeah, similar, right? So, great question. So what are some basic texts that I can say, hey, you read this first before coming to me? Again, I would say human mind, but maybe the Indian mind, because that's what I end up dealing with. No matter what the hell you say, people don't listen. I mean, you will say, okay, thank you, I got it. But some, I mean, a bad analogy, but I'll say, it's like if you see one cockroach there, you know that that's not the only one. Okay, so just stomping on it doesn't help, right? I mean, no, see, my time, I'm just nobody. I'm saying many of those, actually the few people who are doing something really genuine, most of their energy is sucked, me included, by these elements. They may be well-meaning, but absolutely, when it comes to, I don't know, the common sense, just not there. So they will waste time giving these suggestions, do this, have you talked to this minister, and then what is your job? Okay, so that is it. But now asking, what are some basic text that you can recommend? I can recommend a text, actually I do all the time. The problem is, my worry is if I recommend the text and the people open the books, now not everybody, but some of them I will never see them again. No, these are just simple texts. For example, for science, I would say, within the Western sense, meaning not even Indian text, is Sir Karl Popper. Okay, The Logic of Scientific Discovery, written 1960s. I mean, that's the English translation. He wrote even before that. Conjectures and Refutations. In fact, all books of Karl Popper, I would say. I will also say, don't read the books of Kuhn, the philosophy of science. It's a waste of time. It's a garbage from Harvard. Garbage. Read it to be convinced that what I'm saying is true if you want that. But Karl Popper. Now, if you want to go to the Indian side of it, the Shad Darshanas, Nyaya Sutra, Nyaya Darshana, Yoga Darshana, Vaisheshika Sutras. Okay, now people start saying and immediately, oh yeah, I read that, so somebody I told in one lecture, Bhagavad Gita, it's like this, taking about technology, where did you start? I said, I started with Bhagavad Gita. And the person very innocently said, I'm not criticizing, oh, I did not know that there was a technology in Bhagavad Gita. You're not going to find something ready-made. If it was, like just the economics metaphor that you would have heard if you had done MBA or whatever finance course. Like, do you think people end up dropping, like these days very rare, but like a $10 or $20 bill on the floor? Like, we take it out and by mistake we end up dropping it. Does that happen? Like we losing a bill or people losing a bill, right? Yes, the answer is yes. Let me help you. People end up dropping a note, right? How many of you have found it? Right, so very rare, right? But actually it's not a rare phenomenon. People end up dropping many, but there is somebody to pick it up. You know what I'm saying? So what happens? So like you give that text, like so Yoga Sutra, or Gita, like say where is the technology in Gita? If you are looking for something ready-made, more than likely someone would have already found it. Okay? What happens in science? It gets tougher and tougher with time. Same thing in our literature too. For example, Arundhati Vasishtha, again I'm bringing, or these 4 references that I showed you, Brahmarashi Vishuddhasya, you go to the blog or wherever, Brahmarashi Vishuddhasya, Brahmarashi as a pole star. Okay? Now I have written blog showing why Brahmarashi is Abhijit, why this is Veda. Our researchers will refuse to read that, but will spend hours, days fighting with me that Brahmarashi is not Abhijit, not Veda. And I said, guys, read these sources. So even our researchers will consume time. So that's a challenge. So I would say Karl Popper. So I gave you here, Karl Popper, Logic of Scientific Discovery. It's not an easy read. You will have to read it multiple times. I have read multiple times. I will continue to read for the rest of my life. Okay? That's on that side. If you just talk about Bhagavad Gita, which Bhagavad Gita? There are so many. Pick one, start there. Okay, Hare Krishna Bhagavad Gita. There are a lot of challenges, lot of wrong translation. Still, it is good place to start. Nothing wrong. Vinoba's talks on Gita. 18 lectures. Start there. Pick one copy of Bhagavad Gita. Whether you understand it or not, read one verse every day. Start somewhere. That is what it is. But I know your question is specific. So Karl Popper, that is one. Shad Darshanas, especially Yoga Sutra, Nyaya Darshana, and Vaisheshika Darshana, Vaisheshika Sutra. That you start there. Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, Ramayan. Rigveda, if you start reading, you are going to be bored right away. Okay, you say, what am I reading? You need a context, but if you have a context, if you have a specific problem, it's a joy to read. It's a joy to read. Okay, so you need a problem, you need a context why you're reading. Same thing with Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, okay, I'm just going. But like if you have a stomach troubles, the health related thing, go to 17 chapters, type the type of food. Right? Ayush sattva bala arogya sukha priti vivardhana rasya snigdha stira arudya ara satvika priya. I'm saying I get sometimes stomach ache. What is it? Go to the next word. Katavam lalavana tishna tikshna ruksha vidayana ara rajasaschaiva dukkha shoka maya prada. You are getting pain, you are getting suffering, more than likely you are eating lots of that. I'm just giving you a simple example, but it is there. But if you don't have a context, like when do you go to a doctor? Oh, I'm just having bored today, let's go see a doctor. No, you need to have a problem, and then in that context, it becomes very important. Rigveda will start speaking to you. Same thing with the Bhagavad Gita, same thing with Mahabharata. As a fun, one statement I found in Mahabharata, and this is the 2 birds talking, 2 birds and some story, somebody. But I just cut it there, and I send it to my wife, It says the men, this is for men, it says men should find their own hobbies to entertain themselves, because once there are kids, the mothers are not interested in the man, they are interested in the kid. There was a Sanskrit verse in Mahabharata of that effect. It's a humor, but I just cut it and I just send it to WhatsApp or whatever that is, paste it like this. You say, okay, that's the reason you are not paying attention to me. Okay? Now this is humor, but my point is, because in just a context you are reading it, you are going to find so much fun. That's the excitement. Which means also you have to give up something. I'm going belaboring and going in digression. You have to give up something. For example, for 20 plus years, I watch things and movies and whatnot. We have no TV in our house. How many of you will sacrifice that? If you are, please, you may not have it. Right? Perfect. Yeah. So it's a very easy thing for her to do, right? Okay. Yeah, absolutely. But now, would you agree that what a joy it is not to have a TV? But
I read more.
Correct. But you will not miss anything. In fact, the important news, so how do you come to know about the world? I used to get the economist, I won't stop that. No, important news automatically comes to me, even whether I want to hear it or not. Okay, so there are some sacrifices to be made, something like this.
On a lighter note, in your Mahabharata book, you said you tried another software first, and it didn't go back beyond 6,000 years.
The quote.
Can you walk us through the comical side of how your interactions went with that?
Like the quote you are talking, right? Yeah. So, why don't you tell?
I don't remember, it's been 2 years.
Yeah, so what happened is, just like you asked me what different softwares I use, and this is going back 1995 and after. So when I'm looking for things, and the technology is changing so fast, right? So the softwares were very poor, like a DOS based, even then, I forgot the name now, Star something, So I was asking, hey, do you make I found one good software. I say, but they said our software only, actually literally it went up to that day, 4,700. Okay? So I know, you are reminding me, that's my story. And so I wrote to that person, I said, can you, great, thank you very much for a great software, can you extend this to 25,000 years, like 25,000 BC? And that person wrote to me saying that, no, we don't go beyond 4,700 BC because there was nothing before, say, 4,700 BC. All right, we stop.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll take offline later. Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Okay. You're going to clap one more time.
Yeah, it's a quick question. So I'm interested from the language side of things. So you've dated the events of the work. What was the dating of the work itself? What if it was composed many thousands of years later?
Yeah. What if it's composed many times of years later?
Yeah. And the reason I'm asking is because, again, I have no evidence myself. But
Good evening. If you have items to check out or you need a library card, please come to the checkout desk. If you are using our computers and printers, please finish, save, and print your work by closing time. The print release stations turn on automatically at closing. The library will close in 20 minutes. Thank you for using the King County Library.
Short question.
Yeah, so and the reason I'm asking is because my impression is that Sanskrit itself is it's an old language, but it's not that old, right? Maybe 5,000 years old. It's because of the linguistic evolution, from PIE and all that. So how do you is it possible that the work was created in the modern form or the form that we are reading?
I got your question. So everyone understand the question? So he says, well, it's not like it's research, but there is a perception, or the people say, well, the language cannot be that old, maybe 5,000 years old, Sanskrit would be that, and you're talking of this old age, so it's possible maybe that happened, but these works, these are in Sanskrit, right? Ramayana, Mahabharata, Rigveda is also in Sanskrit. So based on that assumption, they will be written after that. So how do I reconcile it? Well, I don't have to reconcile anything here. The problem is, not you, all these claims are based on wrong assumptions. Have you heard of Hitchens reason? Hitchens razor? Like Chris,
Occam's razor?
Well, Occam's razor, same concept,
Yeah.
but applied to, what is the guy's name? Chris, right? Chris Hitchens? Christopher Hitchens. Have you heard the name? Like the atheist,
Yeah.
very smart man, passed away, a few years ago. So Hitchens razor, or some people call it Hitchens chainsaw. Okay? Now what it says is, and you said it very well, what you said, hey, I don't know, but it's like that, people say the language, see for example, come on now, you didn't say, the language cannot be that old. Based on what? Okay? So Hitchens razor says, a claim that is made without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. I mean, that's important. I mean, you
Well, the
are
evidence I've
asking-
heard is archaeological, right? Archaeological evidence for PIE in
Correct. Again, the same. No, PI is another
PI is
problem.
another-
We will talk another time. But even archaeology evidence. See, we just talked about it. Suppose you find the oldest, what you call, epigraph, and that was dated to 5000 BC or 10,000 BC. What does that tell you? That somebody was there and he created that epigraph in 10,000 BC. It doesn't say a damn thing about what happened before that, what happened after that.
Sure.
Okay? But what people make a thing, when they find it first time, they say, okay, that's when, like, do you hear that? The wheel, the wheel, like the circle, circular wheel, that started, that was invented in 3000 BC. My God. Okay? The fish are creating circles, you see those videos, right? Fish are creating circles, there is a sun, there is a moon. Somebody didn't think like, let's make something like that and roll it and what happens? That happened in 3000 BC. So this is I call there is a scientific acumen, there is a logical reasoning. And people fail in both, either or, and that is a challenge. It's not about you. In fact, you are asking because you get people saying that to you also, right? No, language, we don't know how far language goes back. In fact, think it the other way. This very evidence is showing that definitely language was there that far back.
Well, it could have been composed later, right?
So how did they remember?
Well, it could have been translated or transmitted in
How?
other ways.
Translated in what?
But we are different languages.
Oh, so only some objection about the Sanskrit.
Yes.
Okay, so the languages existed, you are saying what about the Sanskrit,
Yes.
right? Okay, it's possible. Now my question is, what is the evidence that Sanskrit did exist from this time or did not exist from this time?
Right, that's why I brought the PIE
Yeah.
question. Because of the
And the question
archaeological
is,
evidence.
we don't have evidence. Because that argument, I'm saying this logically, archaeology is limited. When you find something archaeologically, that's not argument, archaeologically you find something, all it tells you is that existed at that time. It doesn't say anything before, it doesn't say anything after.
But it's a study of linguistic evolution from older languages.
Let's talk about that. Linguistic, so PIE, there are enough studies that PI is a nonsense. There are enough studies, okay? It's a made up thing, with the Aryan invasion and all this thing. People know it, but if you have an agenda, they will push it. So Harvard, we drove from Atlanta to Harvard to meet with the geneticist. So he does his genetics works, but to put the dots, he goes to Witzel. Have you heard the name Michael Witzel at Harvard? Yeah, he said, so I knew, he didn't say it. I said, okay, well, this is blah, blah, blah. And, just to judge him, and my wife, short temper, she lost, he said, okay, now I heard this for 1 hour, now let me tell you something. But that's a different story. That's another talk. Okay, thank you.
So I've had friends who said that, Valmiki was just an awesome poet, that's why he came. So you can't make this stuff up. All these astronomical references, awesome. Thank you all very much. If you can help gather the chairs together. Thank you, Nilesh ji. Thank you, Ashwini ji, for. This is his 5th talk over the weekend, and he has 1 more to go. So he's had a busy week.